Good morning. Today we're continuing with our geometry and we're going to be talking about angles. Angles we've been using for so long and we reference them and we really haven't given the thought to how they really work with math. For those of you who go and do your tricks at the skate park or on your bike and you're like, oh, I can do a 360, or I've practiced and I'm only up to a 180. Those are angles. What an angle is a fraction, back to fractions, or a part of a circle. So, and if you remember when we started with the most basic, there's my point, and then I turn that point into a ray, because remember this implies it goes on indefinitely, and much the same with our angles. So my angle starts with one ray and then another. So that's pretty much how you've seen angles for the most part up until this point. Angles have a name. I'm going to, and again, geometry has capital letters. Give this the letter A. So I can call this angle A. And again, this is the vertex. The vertex is where my two rays come out of. So I could call this angle A, or I could put a point there and a point there, and a lot of times you see angles this way, and I'll do a C and an F. So then I could give this angle another name. I could give it an angle, if I'm not calling it just by the vertex where the two rays come out of, I have to start up at the top and call it angle C. Then I go to my vertex, A, F. So I could call that angle A if I was only going to use the vertex, or I could call it angle CAF, or I could give it one more name, because I could go backwards and call it angle FAC, angle FAC. I could not call it angle AFC or angle ACF. You have to go in order. It can either be my top ray to my radius to my bottom ray, or I can call it from my bottom ray, to my vertex to my top ray. So this angle is either angle A, if I'm going to just call it by its vertex, or if I'm going to use the points on there, it would be angle CAF or angle FAC. Angles are measured in degrees. Remember, we said a whole circle is 360 degrees. And inside that circle are an infinite. Just like in a line, there's an infinite amount of points. In a circle, there's an infinite amount of angles. So this is a part of a circle, and it's measured in degrees. The whole circle is a 360. Remember, if I can do that cool trick and I can spin around one time, it's a 360. So angles are measured from one to the other. So this angle is quite small, so it's a smaller angle, and it has a name. And I think you probably heard this before. It's an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle that is smaller than 90 degrees. 90 degrees? What's 90 degrees? 90 degrees is like the corner on a book. It's the corner on your paper. It's the four corners on a square. In fact, it's the perpendicular lines that we just learned about. So if I were to make one ray going straight up, I'll call that L. Now I have a 90-degree angle. And I'm going to get a different color just so it shows. And from right here, just like with our perpendicular lines, we do this little box that tells us That's a 90-degree angle, or it's also called a right angle. So we have acute angles, which are less than 90 degrees, and we have a right angle, which is 90 degrees. So angles have many different names, but they're measured in degrees. Let's take a look at this again. So again, I'm going to start with my vertex. I'm going to do my bottom ray, and I'm going to do my top ray. And I'm going to give that C, P, N. So this angle, and I'll zoom in a little bit closer so you can see. That angle has several names. We can call it just by the vertex, angle C, or I can call it, I'll erase this so we're not confused, angle PCN, PCN, or I could call it angle NCP. And I'm going to make that little mark because that tells me what part of that am I referencing for an angle. Or the type of angle that is, it's less than 90, it's little, it's an acute angle. So this can be named 4 different ways. So that's our small angle that is less than 90. Then I'm going to go to that corner of my paper, the corner of the book, those perpendicular lines almost. And I'm going to give these F, L, N. And just to show you, this little box tells me it's a 90-degree angle, a right angle. So we could give this angle by the vertex, L. I could call it angle FLN, or I could call it angle NLF, or I could call it by its degrees, by what part, what fraction, what portion of that circle. That's 90-degree angle, or it's also a right angle. And if I put 4 of these together, that's a whole circle. That's a quarter of a circle. 9, 18, 27, 36, 360 degrees. So we have this with the little box here. It's called angle L, angle FLN, angle NLF. By the degrees, it's 90 degrees and also a right angle. What about those angles that look really big? I'm going to start with my vertex again. I'm going to do my bottom ray, and I'm going to shoot a ray way over there. And this is what I want measured. I'll give it P, Q, R. So now, this isn't that cute little angle that's less than a right angle. It's not a right angle or the corner of my paper. It's larger than 90 degrees. It's called an obtuse. I say obtuse like a moose. A moose is big, or a cute little angle. So we're going to call this obtuse because it's bigger than 90 degrees. So if I'm going by degrees and it's obtuse angle, or if I'm going by the points on it, angle Q, angle P, Q, R, or angle R, Q, P. And eventually we're going to get to using a protractor, which is like a ruler for measuring angles, to see exactly how many degrees that is. I'm going to assign you some sites where you can go on and practice that. And pretty soon you'll get to look at that and know right away, oh, that's an obtuse angle. I'm going to say that's 90, 120 degrees. And then you would measure it with your protractor and see how close you are. So we have acute, little one, less than 90. We have the 90-degree right angle, or we have the big obtuse angles. And there's one more angle I want to show you. It looks similar to what we just learned about. Again, I'm going to start with my vertex, send a ray out that way, and send a ray out that way. L, M, N, and this is the portion that I'm talking about. That almost looks like a line. In fact, that could almost be a line, but it's also an angle. The name for that angle is a straight angle. How is it different than a line? Because I put this as my vertex and I drew this to show that's the portion, the degrees. So first I'm going to say that's a straight angle, or I'm going to label it by its points. So it could be angle M, angle L, M, N, or angle N, M, L. And remember I said every angle is a piece of that 360 circle? This looks like half of it. So I'm wondering if you could guess what the degrees are on that. I'm doing that fancy trick. I didn't make it all the way around with my 360. I only made it halfway around, or this angle is 180 degrees. So angles are measured in degrees. What fraction or what part of a circle? So we have, in review, we have acute, we have right, or let's go with 90 degrees because they can be called either one. We have obtuse, and we have a straight angle. So those are the names. You can also name them by the points on the angle or by the vertex. And they're measured in degrees. The more you do something, the easier it gets. Have fun with angles.